Have you guys ever felt kind of stuck in your situation and you're just not sure what to do? Either a situation that you're in, you feel like you're just trapped, whether that be, a difficult thing that you're going through and you just aren't sure how to get over it. Well, we have an awesome guest with us today, Amber Miller, and she has been in that situation before where she just has felt stuck, that she just didn't know where to go, what to do. Her life was it was kind of crazy at one point, and so Amber, if you could just kind of share with us a little bit about your background and kind of some of those challenges, a little bit, kind of those things that you went through about being stuck and getting out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, I wish I was trapped on those beaches that you guys are at. But my story goes back further than that. At 15, I started drinking, and that's what I knew. And everybody around me drank. And my mom, she drank a lot as well. And when I was 22, she passed away, basically from a host of health issues and mainly drinking, which clearly that was a defining moment in my life. And I remember thinking in that time that somebody else needs to change the system. Like there needs to be more resources available for people that, for getting access. But I never thought that that person could be me. Like I thought somebody else was supposed to do it. But I also remember thinking at the same time, like, I want to be able to help people like in this space. I don't want anybody else to ever feel the way that I felt. And so for the next 10 years, like I went on with my own drinking issues. But in my head, it was never as bad as what my mom,
Mhm.
had. But that was a lie that I was telling myself.
Yeah.
And I would drink, and I would just wonder why. Like, why does this liquid have so much control over me? And I literally felt trapped. And then it wasn't until last year when there was a high school classmate of mine, and she was basically knocking on death's door, that like I recognized this situation from 10 years prior. And
Mhm.
I was still drinking at this time, but I had her over for lunch. And I basically told her where the bear shits, and that she was going to die if she didn't change her life. And she says she doesn't know what I said that day, but just pretty much that it was the fact that I gave a damn.
Mm.
And
Yep.
so 3 weeks later she went into treatment, and I decided, like, in the midst of this, that alcohol no longer had a place in my life, that she didn't ask to make it to this point in life. Like nobody wakes up in the morning like wanting to be that far down in the hole. And I didn't want it to get to that point, and I've
Right.
already seen the worst of the worst. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to stop that before it happened. I didn't want to put that on my family to have to deal with, and like all of that. And so I read a book on how to quit drinking, and I quit drinking, and literally the curtains were pulled back, and my life is a 180 right now. And like I feel like I'm actually living for the first time.
So awesome.
That really is so cool. I was thinking you were going through a tough time in your life, and maybe you didn't admit that or want to believe that or whatever. And it's so interesting that we all of us can be doing that, going through a hard time, and it might be just something simple that we say that helps somebody else, and then in return is now helping you. So your life is now completely different. So you talked a little bit about your past, but what path are you on right now? What's Amber most excited about right now in life?
Oh, there is literally like nothing that I can't do. So, drinking at one point in my life, that was the hardest thing that I've ever done. And once I made that decision and I took that action, like I look back and it's wasn't hard at all for me. Like there was a little bit of hypnosis at the end of the book, so I don't know if that's the flip of the switch, but whatever it is, like I don't have like cravings anymore. I have an awareness of like when I used to drink, but like literally the curtains were pulled back. And so I decided, like, I didn't tell anybody that I had quit drinking for a couple of months because I didn't know if I was done forever. And I had told
Sure.
people a million times before that, that I was going to be done, and they laughed. And clearly I went back to drinking. And then after about 3, 4 months, like, I'm like, okay, like, this is the real deal. And so last spring, like, I started to lean into that, and I started to like see alcohol for what it was. And then I looked around, and like I realized how many people were struggling with this. And like, I'm not the only one that feels this way. And so it was, I did some inner work, and I hired my first coach. And like, I'm like, okay, like, drinking wasn't who I thought I was. Like, I thought that was part of my identity, but it wasn't. And so I started peeling back the layers of who is Amber Miller on the inside, and taking off all of these things that weren't me. And I've always been somebody that wants to help other people. And so it was through that, I started putting my story out there on Facebook, and it was the most terrifying thing in the world. And I would
Yeah.
wake up some days and wonder, like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm sharing the most vulnerable parts of my life with the
Yeah.
world. And I would want to retreat, but then I get that nudge from the universe, and like my mom and my grandma, and I would get a private message from somebody saying that I was inspiring them. And then it's like, okay, this isn't about me anymore. This is about helping somebody else. And if I can help somebody else feel the way that I do, and then they're in turn able to help somebody else, like you guys were saying, like, that's literally how the world becomes a better place. And like, my goal is to raise the vibration of the world.
Totally. I 100% agree. And you said something that really, struck a chord with me. And Shane and I have been talking about, identity and what we identify with. And I find it interesting that you said you didn't, you thought that that was your identity, but it really wasn't.
No.
Your identity is helping people. That's what you identify. And, I've said this in other podcasts. It's the I ams. I call it the I am. So what do you say about yourself? What do you identify with? And that is, I am a person that helps other people.
Mhm.
And that's your identity. And so that, I love that you brought that up. And so can you talk about identity for a little bit and just kind of, what you're identifying with now and how that's changed kind of your life and your direction?
Yeah, absolutely. So for so long, like, my identity was the party girl. Like, I was out every weekend, and but that's not who I was on the inside. And so now I'm creating this new identity. Like, actually, I'm just peeling off all of the things that aren't me.
Mm,
And it's like every day I'm shocking myself. And like I said, like, now I'm unstoppable. There's nothing
yeah.
that I can't do. And so now I'm like, okay, who is the person that I want to be? I want to be like a highly sought after coach. Like, I want to lift people up. And this year has been about my year of health. And so I decided my goal was I was going to go climb a 14er in Denver or
Yeah.
in Colorado. And at the beginning of this year, I was in zero shape to go and climb a mountain, like zero. Like, I hadn't exercised in probably 6 months, and I ate garbage. And I decided, like, that's going to be part of my identity. I want to be somebody that exercises on a regular basis, like every day. Like, I want to move, and I want to be somebody that puts good food in my body and shows this body that I love it. And
Mhm.
so I'm showing up every day as that person, and that's becoming my new identity. And so, like, it's really all encompassing. And like, people say, it's so weird because, like, you're still the same person, but you're different. They're like, like, they can like feel my energy from the inside out. And that's what I do, like, with my clients. Like, I want them to feel that, like, to love yourself, to accept yourself, and to have that self-worth for the person that you are right now. and be proud of who you are, because there's so many people that, get on the phone with me and they literally tell me that they hate themselves. And that breaks my heart that
Yeah.
people are walking around living a life according to what other people think, and that's just what we think that other people want.
Yep.
But in actuality, nobody else cares what you're doing with your life. And so that's the thing, is people like give up a lot of that control to everything else, when really it's like, okay, like let's focus on number one. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what would make me the happiest? Well, quitting drinking would make me the happiest. Getting in shape and having even more energy to keep up with my 2 young kids, and like start to be able to go on adventures, like climbing a mountain, like that's going to be huge. And so really, it's just about doing all of those little things day in and day out, those habits. That's who our identity is.
That's really cool. I would venture to say that Jason also agrees with what you're saying. I completely agree with everything you're saying. It's so interesting to see just that the path that you've taken to get to be who you are. You know, it doesn't just change overnight and you just instantly are a new person. What you've been saying is that you've been taking little tiny steps, and that action is allowing you to be who you really are.
Mhm.
We're kind of at the mercy sometimes of things. Yours happen to be alcohol. Everybody has something that they're a prisoner to, if you want to call it that. And all
Mhm.
we have to do is just let that part of our life go. And then we become the person that we really are. I
Mhm.
believe that Amber has always been someone who wants to reach out your hand and help other people. It just took a little thing in your life to allow you to see that. And now the beautiful thing is that many people in the world are seeing the real Amber. Is not
Yeah.
just you, but so did you go on this hike and climb the mountain? I'm curious to see how you felt if you did that, and if you got to the top, and your feelings about that.
So that's happening in July.
Oh, happening. Okay.
Yep. So that's right now, I'm like in the middle of training, and every day, like I'm climbing a little mountain every day to get to that thing, because climbing the mountain's just going to be the icing on the cake. That's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
end goal. But the real goal is every day getting over the excuses that I've told myself
Mm-hmm.
for years, and showing up every day for myself. So like when you talk about like, this doesn't happen overnight. Like this is little by little. And to be honest, like my whole self-development journey actually started 4 years ago when we were broke, me and my other half, and I decided like I didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck anymore, and I had never been taught about money. And so I read Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover, and in 3 years time I got us completely debt free, house, 3 vehicles, a boat, and a camper, all paid off. And it's like, okay, if one book can change my life this much, like what else, what other books are out there? But the thing about it is you have to take action,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times people will just read books, or they'll post the inspirational memes and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But yet they're still restless unhappy on the inside, because they're not actually doing anything to improve their own lives. And oftentimes, people will look at somebody else and be like, well, that's great for them. They can do it. And they don't think that they can do that. And
Yeah.
like that's what I want to do, is like I want to give people that belief in themselves. Like I believe that people can do anything, and so I just want to breathe that into them and pour gasoline on their fire.
I love it. Yeah, I love that like visual, right? Like dumping gasoline and just boom, Eh,
Yeah. Like,
you said something that I really, really liked, and it's that, you said, okay, you're going to climb this 14er, right? Which I've climbed several 14ers, so I know what it takes to get to those heights.
Yep.
But you said every day you're climbing a little mountain. And I think that mountain could be either physical, it could be emotional, it could be, it could be spiritual if that's what it is. So those little mountains that you're overcoming and you're climbing on your way to the big mountain, could be figurative or, actual, right? Like a
Yeah,
physical mountain.
it's all encompassing.
Yeah. So I like that you said that, and that, you're reaching these little goals on your way to a 14er. So I got to ask, because I've climbed a couple 14ers, which one are you kind of eyeing in on? What's the
We're I put this out there for the universe, and two or three other girls decided that they had their own mountain to climb and that they were coming with for my journey. And so we
awesome?
booked our tickets. We have not actually picked one out yet.
Oh, cool.
I think we're gonna keep it fairly, one of the easier ones to start off with. I want to make sure that I make it up it. So
That's awesome.
No problem with that. Climbing a mountain, no matter how high, is an accomplishment. No matter who you are, that'll be awesome to hear the story of when that happens.
right, yeah, and it's really just about like, setting that goal and like who is that person that you want to be, and then breaking it down into little steps. And that's, people want to they want to put off happiness, and they think that they'll be happy when they climb the mountain, or they'll be happy when they have this house or whatever going on in their life, and that's not the way it needs to be. Like, you can be happy right now with where you are, and like be happy the entire step of the way, because like every day, like this morning, like I decided to up my, workout and push it a little bit harder, and like I can still feel it in my legs. And so that's like a reminder, like that's still happiness to me, that I'm getting up like before my kids, and I'm putting me first, and I'm having that space for me to become the person that I want to be, and my future self is going to really thank the person that I am today.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think we have to take care of us first before we can ever reach our hand out and help anybody else. We have to be okay inside before we can help others. So your journey is very inspiring, Amber. I really look up to you. I haven't personally struggled with alcohol, but there's been plenty of things in my life. I went through a divorce, and that's tough, but
So I look at those things, and like, you say that like our struggles, our adversities might have been different. But the thing is like, as humans, like we all have our baggages of crap that we carry around.
Yep.
And honestly, I think that that's what connects us all,
Yeah.
because all we want is to be heard and to not be judged. But yet everybody hides all of this stuff because that's what they're so afraid of.
Yeah.
And so it's like, let's open up, let's heal together, and like, and then let's get over that, because going through that stuff and that crap, like that's what gives us our superpowers. And like, had I not went through my own journey with my mom and me, then I wouldn't know how to help people in this realm. And now I just have such compassion and empathy for anybody who is in this space. And it's just like, I'm over fake conversations. Like,
Yeah.
come and tell me your trauma.
Yeah.
Like, let's get over this, so that way you can start like living a joyful life. Like, everything that you have been up until this point does not matter, because you get to choose who you want to be going forward. And that's what I did. I decided like I didn't want to be somebody that drank anymore. I had had enough of that, to last me 3 lifetimes. And like, this is who I want to be going forward.
Right.
And now that I'm clear-headed, like now I can take more vacations. I can do the things that fuel my soul, and I can help people that need it.
Yeah. I love that. And you kind of brought up a quote, and can't remember who said it. I think it might have been Stephen Covey, but he said, we need to be heard, seen, and understood, right? Like that's the gist of the human soul, right? Like we need those things. And so it kind of reminded me of that. So yeah, we definitely need to be, those things, but you also said something, whereas we don't have to be that person, right? Like we can be somebody different. We can change. And you mentioned, action and taking action and doing those things. And that's really what it is. And it doesn't have to be like, okay, I want to climb a 14 or so. Oh, shoot. Now, and then once you start thinking about that 14er, it's so high, right? 14,000 feet is no joke. I've been there.
Right.
And so you have to think about, okay, I'm going to start here, right? I'm going to walk my first half mile. I'm going to take my first 15 steps or whatever it be, whatever that first little small goal that you're kind of talking about, that needs to be the thing you're also focused on and enjoying the journey while you're doing it, right?
Yeah. And here's the thing, like taking those first steps, like you've got an idea of the person that you want to be, but you've been living your life a certain way, up until now. And you don't know how to get from point A to point B. And it's going to seem scary as hell to like take those first steps. Like I had the book about how to quit drinking for probably 3 weeks before I actually picked it up because I was afraid of what was on the other side. And then I had to get real with myself. Like, isn't that the whole point? Like to figure out like who you are on the other side of this. And so instead of being afraid, I got curious about who could I be on the other side. Like, and to be honest, like I didn't think that a book would be able to, make me quit drinking. Like that was my thing and it did. And so it's now every time like fear is a liar. And all of the things that I have been afraid to do were the exact thing that I needed to do. And when you walk through that fear and you look back and you're like, okay, that wasn't that scary. Like that builds your self-confidence and that builds your self-worth. And then, you just continue to build on that. And it's like, well, what else can I do next? And so from there, it just kind of keeps going and building. And like, if I could tell everybody one thing, it's just like, walk through your fears and if you can't, like find somebody that will hold your hand through it. Like find that support system, somebody who is doing the thing or living in a certain way that you want to, because I can about guarantee you like they would be more than happy to teach you about finances, teach you how to quit drinking, teach you how to run, like write a book, like whatever it is that people want to do. Like people want to share their knowledge of what they're passionate about. So if you see somebody that's doing the things or living a certain way, like reach out to them.
Yeah, it's again taking that action, taking that one step. So you started a Facebook group called A Life Not Wasted. How else can listeners contact you if they want to get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is my Facebook community. I encourage everybody, if you want more motivation or a good kick in the ass, like come on in. Yeah, that's A Life Not Wasted. Otherwise, you can also email me at amber@alifenotwasted.com.
Awesome.
So Amber, kind of right at the end of all of our podcasts, we like to ask two questions that we refer to as the double down dose.
Okay.
And so so the first question is what is your definition of hope, or how would you define that in your life?
I would describe that as knowing that you were meant for more, that there is something beyond the way that you have been living. And it would be something that makes you feel light and fills your heart with love. And I think that everybody can get there as long as they get out of their own way.
Hmm.
That was a really good answer. I think often we get in our own way, but we don't see that until we really start to think. So the second part of the double down dose is, how would you define love?
Love. Oh, I would describe that as accepting yourself for who you are with all of your faults and being able to live and breathe that and being able to pour that out into everybody else that you come in contact with, because I think it all starts with our relationship with ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. And if we love ourselves, then that's going to be good energy that we're able to transfer to everybody else, and they're able to receive some of that.
That's awesome. Wow, you've been so super inspiring today, Amber.
Good.
Just dropping little nuggets all morning.
I did it again.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that. I can feel your spirit and your energy, and I truly appreciate you coming on with us. Is there anything, kind of some last words maybe that we haven't talked about today that you'd like to just mention before we end this episode?
Yeah, as Shane messaged or mentioned the thing about what I said about we are the only ones in our way. And I can't say how true that is. Like, we are literally the only ones that put restrictions on ourselves. A lot of times people want to give that control. They want to blame everything about, their job or, an ex or whatever. When in actuality, like, we have complete control over our lives and where we're going. And so really it just takes having an honest conversation with yourself. Where do you want to go in life? Like, how do you want to live this one life that you have? And what are you ready to leave behind and not that's not serving you, in order to have that life and to find that fulfillment and be super proud of? And, like, that's just what I want everybody to know. As soon as you get out of your way, like, everything is wide open.
So awesome. Amber, thank you so much for your time today. Best
Thank you,
wishes in
guys.
your preparation to conquer that mountain, the
Yes,
literal mountain, but also in life. Best wishes to you and your family.
I love it. Thank you guys so much for having me. I love expanding my connection of awesome people. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining our. Now you're a part of our Sprinkle with Hope family, because that's what Shane and I refer to it as our Sprinkle with Hope family, because we're all connected in family. Let's
Yep.
be honest. Every individual person, and so thank you for being a part of us and sharing your light and your energy, and I love it. I can feel it.
Good.
Even though we're far distance, right, away from each other.
Yeah. Like, you can feel that heat from your
Oh
tropical
yeah,
wherever you are.
Absolutely.
totally.
Good.
I'm
Good.
feeling it.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for just sharing, yourself. And, I think there's a lot to be said about, being vulnerable and sharing
Mhm.
those things that, those skeletons in our closet or the baggage that we're carrying around. There's a lot to be said for that. And I think that that's where the growth really comes from,
Yes.
is when we face those things that we're either afraid of, and we just move through them. And I once heard, and you kind of sparked it in my head, but I once heard that whatever you're afraid of, that's the thing you need to do.
Yeah.
And so thank you for just kind of reminding me about that. Is, that thing we're afraid of, go after it, because
Mhm.
we don't know what's on
Get
the other side.
comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, totally. Amber, thank you again so much for joining our show.
Thank you, guys.